thing about it, a king don't chase a peasant. King chase kings. I want Joshua.
Down to right forever winning. What up? Let's go, baby! Let's go!
Welcome to the motherfucking relay where we're covering today's top boxing news!
Okay, we'll start with this. Dillian Whyte and Eddie Hearn trade words over Joshua deal fallout. The article reads, Whyte has disputed that claim and says the deal is nowhere near being done. Called the rematch approaches of Joshua and Hearn half-hearted. Whyte is not happy with the money being offered, and he's not happy with the lack of time to do a proper drug testing protocol with VADA. He believes Joshua and Hearn are really focused on facing Jarrell Miller at Madison Square Garden in New York City. It's clear to me that they have never been serious about making a fight with me or April 13th, Whyte told Gareth Davies of Telegraph Sport. If they were serious, they should have started negotiating sooner and with more realistic terms. The way he's going about business, Joshua won't fight me, Wilder, or Fury anytime soon. They've had a Wembley Stadium date booked for ages and have known AJ was available since he beat Alexander Povetkin on the 22nd of September, yet he didn't make an initial offer until the 10th of January. We could have made this fight if Joshua really wanted it, but it has been clear to me all along that they've been focused on making the Jarrell Miller fight in New York City on the streaming service DAZN. Hearn reacted to Whyte's statements, denying some of the allegations being made with respect to his effort to finalize a rematch deal for Joshua. Of course we were serious about the fight. We wouldn't waste everyone's time with 3 different offers. We don't do it for fun. AJ controls the finances, and the offers came from AJ. As a WBO mandatory challenger, Dillian was due 20%, and the final offer was considerably more than that. Hearn told Davies, Dillian has a perception of his value in the fight. We respect that, and we will continue to work with him and grow his stock in the heavyweight division. I like the Joshua Whyte fight. I do think Dillian deserves a world title shot. The carrot here was if you beat Joshua, you become a star. There is still a chance this fight could be made in May or June. These two sides of this same argument have wildly opposing views as far as what's going on, and it's up to you to make the decision who you want to believe, you understand. We don't know the exact dollar amount, we don't know the exact percentage split that Dillian Whyte was offered, but what we do know is that all he's actually entitled to as a contender via the WBO, as a challenger for the WBO title, all he's actually entitled to is a mere 20%. So in terms of entitlements, that's all you're really entitled to, 20%. So anything above that
is extra.
Is an incentive, a financial incentive. Now, you're gonna notice that Dillian Whyte is just one of several guys who feels like Anthony Joshua doesn't want to fight him. Dillian Whyte is just one of 2 or 3 guys that feels that he's being lowballed, that he doesn't like the money. And this is becoming a more and more prevalent theme in regards to Anthony Joshua. So the question then becomes, is it that Anthony Joshua is lowballing these fighters, or that these fighters are overstating their own value? That these guys aren't quite being real with themselves as far as what you're worth and what you should get and who really is the marquee fighter in this situation. With respect to Dillian Whyte, I feel that he's earned his way, and I do feel that he deserves a title shot. So if he ends up fighting Dillian Whyte instead of Jarrell Miller, I'm not going to complain about that because Dillian Whyte has worked his way to a title shot, more so than some others that are out there. It's not even Dillian getting a title shot that has me scratching my head so much as, what is an agreeable number for Dillian Whyte? What does he feel he should get? What's an agreeable percentage split? What's an agreeable guarantee? What exactly does he expect to make for this fight? And does that align with the reality of things? Without an exact dollar amount, without the exact percentage split, without certain particulars of the 3 offers that they've made to him so far, without those particulars, we really don't know. But I'll say this much. Dillian Whyte is one of more than 3 guys who claims that Anthony Joshua is ducking him. He's one of 2 or 3 guys that claims that he's being lowballed. This tune is becoming a familiar tune to the point where it's becoming a broken record. But when I look at other instances of other fighters that are saying the same thing that Dillian Whyte is saying here, when I look at those other instances involving other fighters, take Deontay Wilder's instance for example. When they made him that $15 million flat fee offer, that was a guaranteed $15 mil to a guy who at that time, his highest purse was $2 million. Yet according to Deontay Wilder, the same way it's according to Dillian Whyte, oh, these guys, they're lowballing me. They don't want to fight me. But think about it. Look at that offer. $15 million to a guy who at that time, his highest purse was only $2 million. And you're calling that a lowball. They come back with another offer for a bigger guarantee and a percentage split, but you're still not happy. They go as far as saying that they're willing to give you 40% for the fight, and you go into radio silence. We then look over at Jarrell Miller, another guy who wants a Joshua fight, but, you know, in the past he's claimed that he's being ducked, yada yada yada, whatever, you know, but yet another guy. And he has even less entitlements than Deontay Wilder, than Dillian Whyte, and yet he was saying the same thing that all those guys are saying.
Next, suppose this would go at the Deontay or fight me, they're gonna fight Dillian Whyte again. Like, come on, man, he already know what he's trying to do. He already had it planned out already, like, come on.
But Joshua don't want to fight. He would prefer to go to America and fight Miller. Easy money. Everyone likes a bit of easy money, you know. I'll take some easy money to fight someone.
All these guys are singing the same tune, yet they're all in different positions. But they have the same constant, that they want more money from Anthony Joshua.
All three.
And when I see this behavioral pattern that seems to span across different guys that are in different situations and different stages in their careers. Because while Wilder may be a WBC champion, neither Dillian Whyte or Jarrell Miller have become world champions yet. They have not touched world titles yet. They've probably got some baby belts floating around, but not full versions of world titles. You'll notice that these three guys are in different stages of their careers, and yet they're all saying the same thing about the same guy.
All three of them.
And I'll tell you that what resonates from that to me
is greed.
Is that these guys are fully aware of Anthony Joshua's marquee value, but they don't put any value in the opportunity to fight him. They don't put any value in the prospect of maybe I beat this guy and maybe I become a star after that. They don't put any value on the opportunity. They put all the value on the compensation for the fight as opposed to winning the fight. And don't be confused by that. It may sound like the same thing, but it's not.
Explain it.
That's saying that you're not as focused on fighting Anthony Joshua so that you can beat him, more than you're focused on fighting him so that you can get paid. That's saying that it seems like these guys really aren't focused on beating Anthony Joshua so much as being paid to fight him. That's the focal point for them. What they're going to get paid to fight him, as opposed to capitalizing on the opportunity to beat him. And those things are mutually exclusive. They're not the same thing. The guy that says, I feel I can beat Anthony Joshua, I just need to get him in the ring. Get me and him in the ring and I'll show you that I'm going to unseat him, I'm going to take his 3 world titles, and I'm going to become a star in the process. That guy is a guy who's likelier to make a sacrifice just for the opportunity. Whereas these guys put no value on the opportunity. They don't seem to. They're more focused on the compensation as opposed to the opportunity to unseat Anthony Joshua. The opportunity itself takes a back seat to the compensation. And I'll tell you that that's a very backwards mentality to have in this kind of sport, because in this kind of sport, to the victor go the spoils, not the loser. And lest we forget, while everybody's mulling over all the details and all the quotes from both sides of the argument, what really gets lost in the sauce is that Anthony Joshua beat Dillian Whyte already.
Did you forget?
So ask yourself, why would Anthony Joshua be so deathly afraid to fight Dillian Whyte again when at the end of the day he already starched you? You had to bounce back from that, not him.
Did you forget?
You know that there are going to be people out there that tell you that, oh, he doesn't want to fight Dillian Whyte. He's ducking him. And on the other side of that, there are going to be people that say, oh, he was always going to fight Dillian Whyte. That was always the plan.
Wait a minute.
On either side of the argument, in either scenario, there are going to be people that have something to say, and you're tasked with trying to make sense of it all. So here's what you need to walk away from this understanding, that whether Anthony Joshua fights Dillian Whyte or he fights Jarrell Miller, somebody's not going to be happy about it. If he fights Dillian Whyte, for example, well, Jarrell Miller's not going to be happy about that, but if he fights Jarrell Miller, Dillian Whyte's not going to be happy about that. But are either Dillian Whyte or Jarrell Miller or even Deontay Wilder, do any of these 3 guys who keep complaining about the money, do either of these guys equate to the marquee value generated by Anthony Joshua? And the answer is no. Thus, the truth reveals itself that the only incentive you see in Anthony Joshua is the payday. You don't actually see an opportunity to beat him, which is what should be important. You want to become the A-side, right? You want to put yourself in a power position. Well, you're going about it the wrong way. You're trying to beat him in the boardroom before you even get to the ring. And the problem is you're not going to beat him there, so you're not making it to the ring. You know that Dillian Whyte, for example, every fight since the Anthony Joshua fight. Perhaps he walked into those sets of negotiations with those sets of fighters as the A-side fighter. Perhaps he got the lion's share of the pot in those situations.
Probably did.
And perhaps since that time, he's grown accustomed to getting certain amounts of money because he's the A-side fighter in those negotiations. Maybe that's what's been going on. But with Anthony Joshua, you're not the A-side, bro. And you're really not even on equal footing with this guy. I mean, if the WBC champion Deontay Wilder isn't on equal footing with Anthony Joshua, then what would make you think that you're on equal footing with Anthony Joshua? Okay, you put on a few pay-per-views, and those pay-per-views were successful. No one is trying to diminish what Dillian Whyte has accomplished so far. He definitely bounced back, and I dare say, in a big way. He bounced back. But reality has to set in at some point that, look, now you're dealing with the cash cow. Now you're dealing with the biggest marquee fighter in the entire weight class. And it just so happens that he beat you already. So you'll excuse me for having reservations.
My reservation.
When Dillian Whyte claims that he's being ducked, that he's being avoided. I'm sorry, but that's very hard to believe when I saw you get starched already. So I don't think that's what's going on. What I think is going on is that you guys can't accept that not only are you guys the B-side in this set of negotiations, but you're Plan B guys. You are contingencies. Because a good amount of the focus and a good amount of the energy that's been expended at the cost of Eddie Hearn, at the cost of Anthony Joshua, it wasn't getting either of you guys in the ring. The cost of most of their energy as of late has been into getting Deontay Wilder in the ring. That was the Plan A. And if Plan A didn't pan out for one reason or another, you guys were the contingency. You guys were the Plan B. Now I know that either Dillian Whyte or Jarrell Miller are not going to like the sound of that. They're not going to like the sound of not being a top priority, because to them, they're looking out for themselves.
Start with the zone, so
I'm
you
not
must
signed with,
believe
I'm
in
not
Eddie
signed
Hearn.
with fucking nobody. Put it like that. I did a 2-fight deal with the zone for this fight and my next fight. That's it. Then from there we go at the negotiation table again. You know what I mean? I'm Big Baby Miller. I pick what serves me best and what's I'm going on.
I made American in Sky Sports and Matchroom because we do good business. We're there, but I'm in the Dillian Whyte business, so you know, whatever is best for Dillian Whyte would do.
And that's understandable. It comes naturally. So I get that. But that's the reality of it all. That you guys are not at the helm of negotiations. You are not in control of what is happening. You want certain dollar amounts that may be more than what you actually deserve. But that's only because you know who you're fighting. That's only because you know who you're dealing with. And you're less focused on the opportunity to get him in the ring than you are to be compensated for it. It's almost like these guys want an insurance policy on whether or not they fight Anthony Joshua. That's what it comes off as. A safety net. An insurance policy. When, for you guys, in this sport, the opportunity itself is the incentive. That you think you're hot shit, okay, get in there and prove it. Now, there are people out there that'll say things in regards to Dillian Whyte, in regards to Jarrell Miller, and in regards to Deontay Wilder. They'll say things like, well, those fighters have got to look out for their best interests. They just want to be compensated for the risks that they're taking. But Anthony Joshua is taking the same risks that they are.
Ain't he?
The difference is, he's the marquee fighter.
Ain't he?
This is prize fighting, folks. It's not a salary job. You want to argue that these fighters are just looking out for themselves and that's okay. Well, Anthony Joshua may just be looking out for himself. So why is that not okay? The whole purpose of achieving what Anthony Joshua and any marquee fighter, that's Canelo Alvarez, that's Manny Pacquiao, that's Floyd Mayweather. The whole point and purpose of achieving A-side status is so that you can be at the helm of negotiations, so that you can be in control, that you achieve a level of stardom, a level of notoriety by establishing yourself as an elite fighter. So much so that many, many people are willing to pay to see you. The point of all of that is so that you can be in control of negotiations. So what's the fucking point in going as far as procuring 3 world titles and only 22 fights just to give away 50% to any schmuck that rolls around? Any schmuck that comes along, then what the fuck was it all for? Like, yeah, I know that I'm worth more money than you are. I know that I generate more money than you do, and I've been doing that for some time now. I know what my monetary value is worth, I know what my market value is, and I know what your market value is. But I'm gonna go ahead and put you on equal footing with me.
Yeah!
Just because you asked for it? Just because you asked me? Then what the hell was it all for? I mean, this is prize fighting after all, isn't it? This is prize fighting that we're talking about. It is marquee value, market value that we're talking about, right? Which fighters are worth what dollar amounts and what determines what fighters get said dollar amounts based on their own marquee value against that of their opponents. That's what we're talking about, right? Did it somehow change overnight? What is with this millennial sensation of fighters asking for dollar amounts that they can't generate themselves and they can't seem to generate fighting anyone else? What is with this millennial sentiment that you're supposed to get exactly what you asked for just because you asked for it? Are we talking about the business of boxing, or are we talking about the business of birthday presents? Because these guys sound like they think it's their birthday. That, oh, I'm just supposed to get that because that's what I want. Ladies and gentlemen, there are certain unsavory details that go into creating these matchups. Most people don't like to address them because they're not well versed enough to understand how these things work. And that's okay. But if you insist on having these kinds of conversations about lowball offers and who's pricing themselves out and who isn't, if you insist on having those kinds of conversation, then all the historical precedence goes to Anthony Joshua. He is the marquee fighter. He generates far more money than any of the people that want to fight him, and that's just the reality of it all. And until those fighters like Dillian Whyte, fighters like Jarrell Miller, fighters like Deontay Wilder, until they can prove that they can do in the market what he's been doing in the market, it's always going to be the same thing. It's always going to come back to the same conclusion. He's the marquee fighter. He's the A-side. You're not. And there's a good chance that whatever it is you're asking for, it's far more than you deserve. You got a lot of different fighters out there that seem to have the same thing in common. They are self-entitled. Well, in the case of Dillian Whyte, you might feel entitled to more, but the reality of it is your status as a contender via the WBO only actually entitles you to 20%. That's all you're actually entitled to. So if it's true that they're offering you well over that, then you're just being unrealistic with yourself. Bottom line, that's the truth of it. As your marquee value has grown over time, so has his. He didn't plateau. He's been putting up good numbers consecutively, consistently. So as your marquee value grows, so does his. So where you might feel that, well, look at everything I've done from the time we first fought. Look at everything he's done from the time you first fought. He's collected 3 world titles from the time that you guys first fought. He's put on very successful pay-per-views.
Hasn't he?
Since the time you guys first fought.
Big events.
These are the realities of it all. So I hate to say it, but Dillian Whyte sounds a lot like all these other self-entitled guys that have been talking shit for a while now. And you know what? You're gonna have a hell of a hard time convincing people that what you're saying is true, and you're the one that's being lowballed. You're the one that's being ducked. You're the one that's being avoided. You're gonna have a hard time convincing a majority of people of that, because the majority of people already saw him beat you. The majority of people already saw him start you. And the majority of people already know he's the marquee fighter, he beat you, and you're the one that needs the rematch. To the victor, go the spoils.